Yeah, we can use modern ICT to bring people who want to learn the experiences of an older generation of people from the diaspora uh, to share. And in that process, we constantly widen the base of people involved in that learning and sharing. For example, I believe that WhatsApp and other social media provides a unique opportunity to do just that, except that it needs to be managed. Yeah, it needs to be managed so that it goes beyond just storytelling into reflecting on what would you do differently. When I look back at a fraud, I look back and say, wait a minute. I guess the direction that a fraud has taken is what was feasible. Yeah. Some of the issues that I was passionate about and I'm still passionate about are relevant. But within the context of the diaspora, you have to give them something that they can chew and bite almost immediately as they go along, being fully aware that this is still work in progress.
So are we doing much in sense of building networks? I think we're doing a lot, and I think we could do more. Nicolas talks about the importance of information and communications technology, ICT, and I think we haven't really fully exploited all of the potential. I mean, the technology should augment face-to-face and visits and things like that, so that everything should be a seamless totality. And I think it's probably something that we need to do a lot more of. We need to invest actually in finding workable solutions. One of the things that's come out very clearly, even from these discussions that have taken place today, the information asymmetries, the lack of information. If you're sitting in the diaspora somewhere, what is happening in Ghana? Who do I talk to? Who can I trust? Who can I work with? All of these are the sorts of questions that at the moment we don't have adequate answers. And so a lot more investment in what I would call the soft infrastructure to facilitate these linkages is where I think we need to step up. Well, I think we start from even this, if you look at this discussion, we know some of these issues already. We know that there are particular ways in which the diaspora can work productively, for example, with small and medium-sized enterprises. We know that, so we should actually start there. We should start to now do much more research, action-oriented research, to begin to break down the segments. If we're talking about young Ghanaians, let's find out, not all young Ghanaians have the same interests. So finding out what are the range of interests, who can they partner with here on the ground. And it's not all about sort of business, it can be about youth connectivity. How do we facilitate much more relationship building, interaction between people who could potentially work together and collaborate in the future? So this is where we should start, in my view.
I'm going to be brutally frank. I'm a cynic. I'm a cynic in a sense that, you see, there is a way in which development agencies, multilateral agencies, have a capacity to reinvent themselves. They don't have a failure in their dictionary. Nothing has ever failed. They come to an end and they reinvent themselves. Yeah, they managed to get some research that says that it was 70%, 80% success. So we now need, you see. The reason why I'm being a bit cynical is the fact that you ask yourself, at what level is the discourse? He knows my attitude towards development interventions or mainstream development attitude, etc. That it is a self-perpetuating industry. Yeah, that only reads from the Good News Bible. Yeah, and they use the bad news to make money. Yeah, but at the end of the day, it leaves the mass of the African people completely untouched. Or if it is untouched, okay, let me be a bit generous. There is some progress, but not as much as is being claimed. When I read some of the statistics about progress being made, and I don't feel it. I don't get the realities like that. Where did they get these statistics from? But I don't have a basis to question their statistics. Yeah, they tell me this and this and this and this and this, and I don't have counter evidence to disprove them. Yeah, but they have to exist. They have a positive role. They make contributions. They create awareness. They open spaces that those who want to can then. It's like if you want to break down a wall, yeah, you look for where the cracks are, and then open the cracks. And that's the way you break down the wall. So if they contribute to breaking down the cracks and they make promises that they don't intend to meet, you see the end point, you go in there and widen it. Yeah. But I don't believe in those. I'm not deluded. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that you throw away the baby with the bathwater, but you must lower your expectations. Yeah. SDGs will come and go. There will be a new one coming.
No, it's not an either or. But I'll link this to what Nicolas was just talking about. The state. For as long as our governments fundamentally don't manage the aid relationship, for instance, just talking about the whether it's SDGs or whether it's remittances for that matter, it's the responsibility of the government to be proactive and to create the enabling environment. If you don't have an enabling environment, remittances cannot be productively used. So what you see is that people are sending the money because they care, they have relatives and so on. But that is not necessarily creating the multiplier effects that it could be if our industries and the environment was better structured. Even the issue of competition among remittance players. You have remittance players who are breaking the law. In many cases, there's a framework for competition, but it is not enforced. This is the case, certainly it was the case in Nigeria up to recently, if not still. So it comes back to these sorts of things. It's one thing to say we have these frameworks. We have now, the SDGs mention migrants. They mention migration. That's very good. But it's the same thing. If you cannot organize yourself and say where you are going, and then you ask the partners, the so-called international development partners, to join you in that journey, to say this is where we want to go. How do you support us? What you have is chaos, because you basically have everybody coming in and doing what they want to do. So that issue for us, and this is where, whether we're diaspora or whether we're on the ground, we need to put a lot more focus on our governments to actually organize, to actually argue for, legislate for, implement, programs and strategies that are more conducive to our development. We cannot just sit there as passive observers in what actually is quite central. So things are done in our name, but we are not taking a full responsibility. That's something that sits with us.